Hello and welcome back to Tech Mode. Today I'm going to talk about the Reverb G2. Now, the weakest part of the Reverb G2 is that the controllers they're just Windows Mixed Reality controllers. That's really what it is. I mean, they're functional, they work. You have to replace the batteries all the time. Not all the time, they've lasted quite a bit, but I digress. They're not perfect, right? For how amazing the visuals are on this kind of counterweights that in the bad direction. Now, I have an index still, and I'm going to keep it probably forever. And the best part of the index over the Reverb G2 is the Knuckles controllers. So, there is a way to make this work with this. Let's dive in. So to get started, you need two things. You need the Windows Mixed Reality for Steam VR app, which you should already have if you play Steam games on your Windows Mixed Reality headset. You also need OpenSpace VR Calibrator. Both are linked in the description below. If you have your index and you still use it, you need to use your index as a Bluetooth hub for your base stations, and in order to track your controllers. If you don't want to use your index, you can buy trackers and set those up separately. However, if you already have an index, you might as well just use that because it's going to sit there and collect dust anyways. It's impossible to run an index in a Reverb G2 on the same computer anyways, so you might as well just have it sitting there and using it for your Knuckles controllers. Many tutorials on YouTube never really talked about using the index. I found maybe one that talked about using your index as a hub rather than buying a separate hub to use Knuckles controllers with. And so I'm using my index and I'm leaving it plugged in to just the power and the USB. I'm not hooking up the DisplayPort cable of the index into my computer, just power and USB because that's all it needs. All right, one final note before we do this setup. It is very important to make sure that your base stations are on and that you have turned off the power saving Bluetooth settings or whatever it's called. Be sure that they're on. So they go into standby mode. They will not wake up in order to track your Knuckles controller. So it's very important to keep them on. All right? Okay. So I'm here in Windows Mixed Reality. What I like to do is just go into Steam VR. If I haven't launched it from the desktop, I could just launch it from that. Now this will put me into Steam VR. So here I am in Steam VR. I'm in Twilight Princess, but you can see that I'm actually in Steam VR. I got my Windows Mixed Reality controller here. I don't have the other one on. Doesn't really matter. I just press my secondary button, which pulls up the Steam VR interface. And all I do is I go down to my overlays and I pick Space Cal, which is the space calibrator. Now here we are. So I have the controller right here. I pull my headset up, I grab my Knuckles controller. You don't see it in VR space at this point in time. In reality, it's like I showed you in the video. What you do is you're basically tying these two controllers to the same spot in 3D space. So you're literally, what I do, I put this Knuckles on like this. I grab the Windows Mixed Reality controller like this. So now I'm in Space Calibrator. I have my Windows Mixed Reality controller right here, which is Windows MR or whatever. Knuckles right. If you're unsure, click Identify. Selected devices and they'll both vibrate so you know they're the same. And as I showed in the video, I stack them up on top of each other. And I click Start Calibration. And it will instantly start calibrating. And what I do is I make a big figure 8, just like this. You let it run through its processes, it's looking at it, it's getting all kinds of samples. And now, you're done. That's it. My right Steam controller is practically perfectly calibrated, and I'm free to use it. It does show up as a Windows Mixed Reality controller in Steam VR for now. The simple fix for this is just to exit out of Steam VR and reopen it. I highly recommend that once you calibrate both the left and right controllers, you exit out of Steam VR, you load directly back into Steam VR with your headset, and you just use the controllers as normal, and you are good to go. Final conclusions. Reverb G2 plus index controller. Pros. It's probably one of the best VR experiences you can get right now without like completely obliterating your budget. However, if you don't have it indexed with the Knuckles controllers already, you're going to be blowing your budget just to get these and some base stations. They are so expensive. These are like $150 each. You can buy 2 of them, you can buy 2 base stations, those are also like $150 each. The price is not the best, but if you already have an index and you want to have a better visual experience, you just buy a Reverb G2, use a Reverb for your display, use these and the base stations for your tracking, and you are set. Now, another pro is that if you want to do full body tracking, currently the best, highest fidelity tracking is something like Tundra trackers, or something that uses the Steam VR base stations, which would work perfectly with the OpenVR Space calibrator, thus giving you the ultimate tracking and an ultimate. Now for the bad. So the good. HP Reverb G2 plus Knuckles controllers. All this is based off of if you already have an index and you want to upgrade your display, you simply use the Reverb G2 for your display. You use the Valve ecosystem, Steam Lighthouses, Knuckles controllers for your tracking. It's amazing. It is really, really, really good. I mean, if you can find the Reverb G2 for $300 like it was, I think it's $450 right now. It's a great visual upgrade. It's still, even to this day, I've had it for like 2 months at this point, and it's still like I'll load in something I used to play a long time ago, and it's just so clear. Every time I bring it, it's like, whoa, this is much clearer and crisper and nicer to look at than it was before. And I mean, you have the money to kick around and you want a visual upgrade to hold you over until the next generation of VR headsets comes out. Hopefully later this year we'll see the Meta PC VR headset, and maybe we'll see the Index 2, the Valve Decker, whatever they want to call it. I think the Reverb G2 is enough to hold you over to that. So the cons, the biggest con, the way I view it is having an index and getting a Reverb G2 for the better VR experience is the downhill slope. It's easy going. It's low cost, low friction. The opposite way of doing that is buying a Reverb G2 and wanting the Index Knuckles tracking system. That's a lot of money. These cost like $150 each. The base stations cost like $150 each, and you have to buy another dongle, which I think is probably another $100. You are dropping a ton of money just to get finger tracking and some rechargeable batteries. Just saying. But it's possible. If that's what you really want to do, you want to skip getting an index, that is one way to do it. And I will say, another con is if you don't have a permanent base station setup. If you're the kind of person that has to set up and take down your base stations on a regular basis, which I have been there, I've actually done that multiple times, you will have to recalibrate your controllers every time you start up VR, which would be bad. Because if the base stations or lighthouses move around at all, you have to recalibrate. And it's not smooth or simple. Once you get the hang of it, you can do it in a few minutes. It's just another hassle, and it really feels it's just another step towards another step of friction in just playing VR. I'm a firm believer that VR should be one day, hopefully, as frictionless as just putting on a pair of glasses. You know, I think that's probably the ultimate VR frictionless experience, is just put on a pair of glasses or something, and then you're in VR. Maybe one day we'll get there. We'll see how it goes. The current VR glasses sphere is looking pretty bad. So anyways, hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, please put it down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, all that stuff. I will try to have some more videos about the Reverb G2 soon. The next video I have on the docket is having 2 VR headsets in the same space. Now, with an index, you cannot have 2 indexes in the same room. Things go bad really quickly when you do that. I've literally done that before, and it's bad. All right. Now, if I have my Reverb G2 and my index, and they use separate controllers, it actually should work as long as I have 2 separate computers, and maybe even 3 headsets. I'm going to try and go for 3 headsets in one room at the same time. We'll have to find some kind of game that would support all 3 headsets at the same time. But I think it'd be cool for all of us to be in the same room in reality, but also in virtual reality. So I'll figure this out later on, but I think it'd be a pretty cool video. And that's it. I'm done rambling. good night. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. I don't really have any resolutions. I think you should make a new resolution every day to better yourself. So anyways, good night.